My life took an unexpected turn when I helped a crying woman at a gas station. I will never forget the chaos of that night. The harsh lights flickered like fireflies trapped in a jar, buzzing above the rows of snacks and soda. The smell of gasoline hung in the air, heavy and choking. I had just pulled in for a fill-up, completely unaware that my life was about to spiral. As I glanced around, my eyes fell on her. She was slumped against the cold metal of the pump, silent tears cascading down her cheeks. Her mascara smeared like dark, tangled vines on her pale skin. I remember feeling an overwhelming urge to reach out. I couldn't shake the weight of her despair. It tugged at my heart, squeezing until I couldn't breathe. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, trembling hands pushing back a rush of panic. She looked up, and for a brief moment, our eyes locked. It was like staring into a storm. There was so much pain behind her gaze, an abyss of heartache that threatened to pull me in. I don't know," she stammered, her breath hitching. She wiped her cheek, smudging the remnants of her breakdown. But that small action didn't mask the desperation. I could see her hands shaking, fingers curling and uncurling like leaves in a tempest. "Do you need help?" I pressed, my heart racing. I took a step closer, but my mind screamed for caution. Something was off. I could feel the air crackling with tension, each heartbeat echoing like a distant drum. I was just a stranger, but the pull was undeniable. In that moment, I thought of my family back home. My younger sister, always full of smiles, my mom, drowning in her worries. They were safe. But this woman? She looked utterly lost. Her pain felt tangible, wrapping around me like a suffocating fog. Suddenly, her phone rang, shattering the silence. The abrupt sound jolted us both. She fumbled for it, almost dropping it on the gritty concrete with trembling hands. I sensed an invisible wall rising around her as she checked the caller ID. It was a name that made her go pale, eyes wide as if she was staring into the abyss again. "No," she whispered, backing away as if the phone had burned her. The panic in her voice, overflowing with dread, sent shivers down my spine. I wanted to reach out, to pull her back from whatever horror awaited on the other end, but I couldn't. I was rooted in place, confusion swirling around us like dark clouds, and then, like a scene straight out of a nightmare, she glanced back at me, her expression shifting from fear to desperation. "They're coming for me." Just as those words hung heavy in the air, an engine roared to life in the distance, headlights piercing the night. My heart raced. Who was coming? I felt my breath quicken, the weight of her words crashing over me, threatening to drown us both. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air crackled with tension, and I could barely breathe. The woman's eyes were wild, as if they held secrets I couldn't grasp. My heart pounded in my chest, caught between a sense of righteousness and the instinct to flee. I knew I should leave. I was just a passerby wrapped in my own life, but the fear in her gaze rooted me to the spot. "They're coming," she repeated, each word a haunting rhythm that threaded its way into my mind. I wanted to ask who was coming, what they wanted, and why she seemed so afraid. The questions buzzed like angry bees, ready to swarm. Instead, I felt a powerful urge rising within me, an impulse to protect her, to shield her from whatever nightmare lurked in the shadows. "What do you mean? Who is coming?" I finally managed to stammer, desperate to anchor her in the fragile moment between panic and clarity. She shook her head, her voice a mere whisper that felt like it could shatter at any moment. I can't let them find me." Before I could respond, the distant sound of gravel crunching under tires echoed through the parking lot. My stomach dropped. Whatever fear she faced was coming closer. I glanced around instinctively, but there was nowhere to hide, nowhere to go. The gas station stood stark and empty, a fortress of fluorescent lights glaring down at us. "Please, you have to trust me," I urged, stepping closer. I could feel my heart racing as I reached out a hand, desperation swirling with uncertainty. "It'll help you," her gaze flickered, a spark of something between hope and doubt. But in that split second, it was enough. The headlights drew nearer, illuminating her face, revealing the paleness of her skin and the stark contrast of her tears, memories of a life once vibrant, now clouded by despair. "Get in the car," I said, my voice suddenly firm. She hesitated, and I could see the inner conflict waging war across her expression. Time seemed to stretch, and then, without warning, she sprang forward, grabbing my arm with a grip that felt stronger than her fragile appearance suggested. I turned, my heart racing, not knowing if it was courage or sheer fear leading the way. Just as we moved towards my car, a sleek black SUV rolled into the gas station, engine purring like a predator closing in for the kill. The driver's door swung open, and a tall figure emerged, silhouetted against the harsh lights. The vibe radiating from him was unsettling, an aura of authority mingled with something more sinister. "Stop right there," he called, his voice cold and commanding, echoing across the parking lot with a finality that stopped me in my tracks. The woman gasped, her grip on my arm tightening as she pressed against me, her breath coming out in shaky bursts. "They're here. We have to go." Her voice trembled, the weight of her panic reverberating between us. I was torn, my mind screaming for solutions while my heart begged for courage. I shot a glance at the approaching figure, his expression unreadable, but his eyes gleamed with menace, like a wolf eyeing its prey. "Get in the car. Now," I urged, pushing her toward the passenger seat. As she slid in, I hopped in the driver's seat, my pulse racing as I fumbled to turn the ignition. The nagging tension prickled at my skin, a feeling that this moment could change everything. With barely a second to process, I slammed the gear into drive, ready to escape away from the confusion, away from the night, but the distant sound of sirens began to resonate in the background, an ominous reminder that our connection might just be the catalyst for a mess much bigger than I realized. "Where to?" I breathed, glancing at her out of the corner of my eye, only to realize she was staring out the window, eyes wide, lost in her thoughts. "I don't know," she whispered, and the weight of those words hit me with a heaviness I wasn't prepared for. Had I really just become part of something I didn't understand, tangled in a web of fear that could ensnare us both? Suddenly, the man from the SUV was there, just a shadow on the concrete behind us. "You're making a mistake," he shouted, anger slicing through the night air. Like a knife, each syllable brimming with authority and an unsettling sense of determination. I hesitated, my foot hovering over the gas pedal, as his desperate cry echoed in my mind. My heart raced faster than I could think, and before I truly knew what I was doing, my finger moved without consulting my brain, slamming my foot onto the accelerator, sending the car lurching forward into the night. As the familiar buildings blurred past me in a whirl of lights, one cold thought gripped me tighter than fear could. I had opened a door I couldn't shut, and the ravenous unknown was closing in on us fast. The neon lights of the gas station faded away as I pressed harder on the accelerator, heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribcage. The asphalt stretched ahead like an uncertain road into an even murkier future. Glancing at the woman beside me, I still hadn't learned her name, but I could see the terror etched on her face, mirroring my own. "Why were they coming for you?" I ventured, the question escaping like a mixture of curiosity and dread. The night felt alive with secrets layered beneath our breaths, like the calm before a storm. I don't know. Her voice cracked, and I caught a glimpse of her shrinking further into her thoughts, a prisoner of memories. "I made a choice, and now they want to take me back." Every word was like a stone dropped into an unending abyss, the weight of them pulling her deeper into despair. "Take you back? Where?" "I can't tell you that," she whispered, her eyes darting nervously to the rearview mirror as if she could somehow see the menacing figure still lurking behind us, shadows of his anger trailing close. "It's not safe, please," I pressed gently, feeling a thread of impatience unravel in my own heart. You need to trust me. I can't help you if I don't understand. I felt vulnerable, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, wanting desperately to hold on to her, to protect her despite not fully grasping what at stake. For a fleeting moment, she leaned closer, her breath warming the space between us. There she inhaled sharply as if the air alone was too heavy to carry. They're trying to erase me. I escaped, but they'll do everything to find me again. The fear in her voice struck me like a jolt of reality. This wasn't just a case of running from a bad relationship or a routine scandal, this was life and death. The woman I had instinctively tried to help was embroiled in something that I couldn't even begin to comprehend. Look, I said, determination coating my words, let's just drive for a while, maybe change directions. If they're looking for you, we need a plan. As the cursor of uncertainty danced on the horizon, I took a sharp turn, heading toward a less frequented road that wound through the outskirts of town. The darkness deepened, blanketing everything in mysterious shadows, each twist echoing my rising anxiety. Thank you, she said softly, the weight of gratitude mixing uneasily with the dread clinging in her voice. I know I'm asking a lot, just breathe, I interjected, stealing a glance at her delicate features. How beautifully fragile she appeared under the dim light of the dashboard. Just let's focus on the now. But the weight of desperation couldn't be so easily brushed aside. I could feel her trembles pulsating into the air as her mind swirled with what lay behind her. Perhaps she thought she was dragging me along to drown in the depths of her chaos, but I couldn't backtrack now. In a way, I felt tethered to her, bound by compassion I didn't know existed within me until tonight. Suddenly, a notification appeared on my phone, the screen lighting up with a message. My heart sank when I saw the name flashing across the display, Ryan. I hesitated before swiping to open it, unwilling to break the fragile connection we had forged in those chaotic moments. That it was a voice recording, muffled but unmistakable. Where are you? We need to talk. I know you're with her. The finality in Ryan's tone struck me. There were forces at play far beyond my current understanding. Before I could think, I slid the phone back into my pocket, torn between my better judgment and the mad desire to shield her from whatever truth lay waiting in the dark. That I can't go back, she whispered, pain etched deep across her features like the world had already drawn all of its hurt into those few syllables. Not ever. A unexpected kindness swelled within me, battling against the looming storm. You won't have to. As long as you're with me, I promise to fight this alongside you. Her eyes flickered. A matching spark kindled between us, a tiny flicker of hope amidst the chaos. But just as quickly as that light appeared, the tension twisted again. The sound of sirens roared into focus behind us, a piercing reminder that our escape wouldn't last forever. They were gaining ground, and my breath caught in my throat, overwhelmed by the gravity of our predicament. Go faster, she urged, eyes wide with desperation. I complied, pushing the pedal down until it felt like we were on the very edge of an abyss, teetering dangerously close to the unknown. A flash of headlights met us in the distance, a series of shadows emerging from the dark, illuminating the night with an urgency that twisted my heart into a knot. I had two choices at that moment: run forward into the darkness or risk everything by turning back. The air was thick with tension as the truth settled heavily upon us, our shared silence a void filled with potential consequences. What if they find us? She finally whispered, voice trembling. That I tasted fear on my own tongue, each word I couldn't speak hanging uncomfortably in the air like a specter. I didn't have the answer, nor the strength to reassure her. And just as the shadows drew nearer, a realization struck me, a chilling thought that wrapped itself around me like a vice. What if all this time, we weren't the ones running from danger? What if in helping her, I had unknowingly become part of that very threat? My chest tightened at the absurd realization, as my senses heightened. Could the horror lurking just beyond the headlights be looming even closer? Or was it always with me, a darkness birthed from the very moment I chose to stop and help a stranger at a gas station? The weight of my choices crashed down in that moment, each heartbeat a reminder that some paths are chosen in the blink of an eye, reverberating long after they have begun. The road unspooled before us like a dark ribbon, each twist in the path mirroring the turmoil in my heart. The sirens wailed still louder, closing in like a horde, their shrill call slicing through the night air, a relentless echo of pending doom. I could feel the girl beside me tightening with every passing second, gripping the fabric of her seat as if it were her last lifeline. "What do we do?" she cried, her fear spilling over, enveloping us both in a cloud of dread. I could feel my own pulse quickening, uncertainty racing through my veins. I scanned the horizon for any signs of escape, searching for a miracle in the bleak expanse of night. My mind recede, 1,000 plans flickered like stars in my imagination, but they all felt flimsy and frail, blown away by the wind of our reality. I dared not look back. I could feel her breathing becoming erratic, reflecting the chaos swirling within us. "We just keep moving," I shouted, more to bolster my own courage than anything else. Suddenly, a flicker of light caught my eye. Up ahead, a small diner stood, neon letters humming in the distance. Hope surged through me, a sign of life, a potential sanctuary where we might blend into the shadows, if only for a moment. "There. The diner, let's go." I swerved hard, tires squealing against the asphalt as I careened into the parking lot, coming to a jarring stop just outside the entrance. The din of the sirens quieted ever so slightly, leaving behind the hum of crickets and distant chatter from the few patrons inside. "Get in," I urged, throwing open my door as I leapt out, urgency propelling my movements. She hesitated for a breath, her eyes wide and uncertain, but the rush of the moment drove her feet forward. Together, we dashed toward the entrance, our hearts colliding in a frenzy of fear and adrenaline. Inside, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the chaos enveloping us. The soft clinks of silverware, the sizzle of something frying on the stove, and the endless monotone buzz of an old jukebox filled the air. We stumbled in, breathless and out of place. I could see that familiar look of wariness settle over the faces of the lone patrons, 2 truckers at the counter and an elderly couple tucked away in a corner booth glancing up in mild curiosity. "Can I help you?" the waitress asked, her brow furrowed as she took in our disheveled appearance. Her eyes flickered with concern but also apprehension. "Yes, I paused, realizing how desperate the situation sounded. "We're just passing through. Can we stay here for a moment?" My voice sounded almost foreign, a mixture of uncertainty and pleading. The waitress hesitated, surveying the diner's empty corners, perhaps sensing the gravity sparking between us. But as the sirens shrieked louder outside, the tension in the air tightened like a vice. "You can sit over there," she finally replied, gesturing toward a booth near the back, yet still in view of the window. That we slid into the booth, hearts racing, adrenaline still surging through our veins. The waitress walked away, but we didn't have time to catch our breath. We needed to think. "Do you think they saw us?" she whispered, her voice barely escaping her lips. I noticed a sheen of sweat on her forehead, illuminating the despair written all over her face. I don't know," I admitted, each word tinged with a growing sense of helplessness. My mind raced, turning over the possibilities of what might come next. Would we still be okay, or had we walked into a trap? Suddenly, the bell above the diner door jingled, and I felt the air shift as a figure stepped in, a man clad in a dark leather jacket, his gaze scanning the space with dangerous intensity. Instinctively, my heart leaped into my throat. A knife-edged panic swept through me. "Stay down," I hissed, my body instinctively drawing her closer to the booth's edge as the man strode forward with an air of authority. My mind screamed for her to stay hidden, but she peered up, desperate curiosity igniting in her eyes. As he approached the counter, something stirred inside me. Familiarity of his figure jolted me, igniting a flickering shadow of recognition. My pulse quickened as I took in his features. I knew him from somewhere. "Excuse me," he said to the waitress, his voice smooth but charged with tension. "I'm looking for someone. A woman about this tall." He gestured, and the radiating confidence in his demeanor underscored the urgency of our situation. I stiffened, my gut churning with a sense of impending dread. "It's him. It's one of them," I breathed, inwardly cursing the path I had taken. "Who?" she asked, voice trembling, the realization of our entanglement dawning upon her like a foreboding cloud. "Just sit tight." I glanced toward the kitchen, grasping at straws as an idea flickered to life. "We need to find a back exit." The waitress moved slowly, warily, and I noticed her glancing our way, an inkling of recognition sparking in her eyes as she processed our frantic energy, but before I could gather myself to leave the booth, the man turned sharply, his eyes locking on our corner. Every breath hitched, each second stretching dreadfully long. "How about I ask you, young lady?" His voice sliced through the air again. "Have you seen her?" The moment hung perilously, and I could feel the floor tremble under the weight of our heartbeats echoing like thunder. The diner, once a sanctuary, now felt more like a cage, and our escape hung by a thread, a mere whisper away from unraveling completely. "Answer me!" he boomed, and I could see the waitress flinch, but what struck me most was the girl beside me. Her expression flickered. It was a cry of defiance mixed with terror. In an instant, everything changed. She leaned forward, eyes blazing despite the fear that lined her features. "I'm not going back," she declared, her voice ringing with unexpected strength, and it felt as if the walls of our world quaked as she spoke those words. Every shred of safety slipped through my fingers in that moment as the man's gaze turned cold, a storm brewing in the depths of his eyes. "You don't understand what you're saying," he warned, moving toward us, closing the distance, and with it, sealing our fate. Another revelation sank in. We were not just cornered, we're trapped, and the darkness had finally cornered us, threatening to swallow what little hope we had left. The atmosphere in the diner shifted like a tide, the air thick with unspoken fears and the looming threat of reckoning. My heart pounded relentlessly, yet somewhere beneath the weight of dread, a flicker of defiance ignited within me, fueled by the girl's unwavering spirit. "We can't go back," she pressed, standing taller, vulnerability transforming into a fierce resolve that startled even me. The man paused, his demeanor shifting. A shadow glided over his hardened features, enveloping him in a haze of uncertainty. Yet, his next words came out sharp, a serrated edge that aimed for our hope. "You don't understand the consequences of your choice." The energetic clinks of silverware and the far-off sounds of the jukebox faded into an eerie silence, as if the world outside had pressed its ear against the glass, waiting for the inevitable clash. The truckers at the counter shifted uncomfortably, their earlier camaraderie evaporating in the presence of palpable danger. Everyone instinctively held their breath, caught in the web of our fragile standoff. "Consequences?" The girl's voice trembled slightly, yet the intensity behind her words carved a path through the suffocating fear. "You think we're going to let you take us back into that nightmare?" "No. I refuse." It was as if she had cast a spell, unleashing something raw and primal within her, compelling me to rise with her. She fought against the tide of hopelessness that had threatened to drown us whole, and I, caught in the whirlpool of her spirit, couldn't help but react. "She's right," I added, bolstered by her unexpected bravery. "We won't go back." A tense silence enveloped the booth before the man responded. "You think you have a choice? You're both in deeper than you know." His voice held a sinister edge now, laced with something akin to loathing. "All of this is yours to navigate, but your refusal to cooperate only spells more trouble." Images flooded my mind, memories of the perilous journey we had taken to escape the darkness. I could see with clarity that the man stood at the mouth of a chasm that threatened to swallow us. "We'll figure our way out on our own," I snapped, clutching the edge of the table as a surge of adrenaline coursed through me, but the waitress, who had watched our exchange with eyes wide and frantic, stepped closer, her voice trembling yet firm. "Please," she interjected, "you don't have to do this. Just take a moment." Her kindness in the face of our despair struck a chord within me, igniting a flame of hope. "There's still a chance to get out of this." The man turned to her, anger weaving its way into his expression, but I caught a flicker of uncertainty on his face. "Stay out of this," he warned, yet his tone lacked conviction, as if the words were more bark than bite. "Why are you doing this?" The girl pressed, her fear momentarily overshadowed by courage. "You're part of this mess. Do you even know what's happening to us?" His eyes flickered, a brief glimmer of hesitation revealing the humanity hidden in the cold steel of his facade. As he surveyed our faces, the edge softened, and for a fleeting moment, I dared to dream that maybe, just maybe, he would relent, would let us slip into the shadows and blend with the hum of the diner. But just then, the bell above the door jingled again, the sound slicing through the tension like a knife. Another figure stepped into the diner, and all eyes turned instinctively toward the newcomer. Dressed in an oversized denim jacket, a boy no older than 18 entered, his gaze darting nervously around the room until it landed on the man, Jake. He shouted, desperation lacing his voice. "They're coming." My breath hitched, and I felt the girl's grip tighten on my arm, glancing between me and the man, whose eyes darkened like storm clouds as he turned his full attention to the newcomer. "What do you mean, they're coming?" Jake's panic surged through the air, an electric charge that sent shivers down my spine. "It's the others," he said, voice shaking. "They know we're here." Time seemed to freeze, the atmosphere thickening with dread as comprehension settled like a lead. Weight in my chest. The man, for all his bravado, now looked thrown off balance, and in the fierce light of his impending confrontation, I seized the moment of uncertainty. "This is our chance," I whispered to the girl, my heart racing as I scanned the diner for a way out. "We have to move now." Her eyes locked onto mine, ignited by the weight of unspoken courage. "Together," she whispered back, and I could see that fire in her spirit mirrored in the depths of my own heart. As we prepared for our escape, the air around us crackled with tension. The diner no longer felt like a refuge but a battleground about to ignite. I darted a glance at Jake, who now stood rigid, his voice steady as he spoke to the man. "We can't stay. They know you're here." A flicker of chaos erupted as the door burst open once more, and I felt an instinctual chill rip through me, as if the shadows had wrestled free from their confines. "Now," I urged, gripping the girl's hand, the weight of our choices pressing down like the thickest fog. But just as we bolted toward the rear exit, a voice sliced through the air like a siren. "Stop right there." Everything turned to slow motion as we lunged for the back door, the weight of our desperation carrying us forward, but the howling storm of uncertainty loomed on the horizon, threatening to swallow us whole in its gale. The retreat from the man and Jake felt precarious, and just when we thought a breath of freedom was within reach, the unexpected emerged, one last revelation that would leave our fates hanging even more precariously in the balance. I turned, expecting to see the man barreling after us, but instead, I found his expression transformed, eyes locked onto Jake with fierce intensity, the unbridled recognition dawning that shifted everything once again. "You!" he bellowed, and in that split second, everything I thought I knew about this moment shattered into fragments, leaving only the haunting uncertainty of what lay ahead. The cry rang out through the diner, shattering the fragile tension. "You!" The man's voice was a mixture of shock and fury, as if he had stumbled upon a ghost from his past. It stopped me in my tracks, an involuntary shiver dancing along my spine as I turned to witness the unfolding chaos. Jake's face drained of color, a portrait of disbelief. "You know me?" he stammered, visibly shaken, his bravado evaporating like mist under the morning sun. "What are you doing here?" the man demanded, his voice low but reverberating with authority. "Please," Jake urged, his eyes darting to us for a split second, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath his bravado. "They're coming. We have to move." The urgency in his voice broke through the shock that had rooted me to the floor. "We don't have time for this," I urged, but the words felt hollow against the weight of the confrontation. The stakes had soared, and I could feel the pressure mounting, pushing me toward a precipice I wasn't sure I was ready to face. Jake took a step closer to the man, the air thick with unspoken history between them. "I didn't ask for this," he shouted, his voice sharp with desperation. "You left me." A silence fell over the diner, the patrons momentarily suspended in the gravity of the revelation. The weight of the past loomed like a specter, and I could see the conflicted emotions flicker across the man's face: anger, regret, and the undeniable hint of a deeper, unresolved connection. "What did you think? That you could just run away and everything would be fine?" the man demanded, but his tone had shifted slightly, cracks revealing a deeper, more complex hesitation. "Fine? You think it's fine for any of us?" Jake exploded, emotion surging through each word like a tidal wave. "They'll find us, all of us. Just like you found me." The girl's grip on my arm tightened painfully, and I felt her pulse racing as if trying to sync with the chaos unfolding around us. "What is happening?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words tangled in my throat, caught between confusion and fear. "Please," I pressed, feeling the seconds slip away. "We need to leave now." The man seemed momentarily unmoved, still locked in this tense standoff with Jake. The diner faded into the background, the shadows hovering in the corners of the room, witnessing the unraveling drama before them. "Why did you come back?" the man asked, his tone softer yet tinged with a hint of anger. "You knew the risks that I came back for them, for everyone. We can't keep running, don't you see?" Jake was pleading now, a raw edge to his voice that resonated with the urgency of our situation. "If we don't stand together, there's no hope." The weight of his words hung in the air, and for a fleeting moment, it felt as if the universe had conspired to lay bare the fragile connections and fractured loyalties that brought us to this point. The man's cool facade crackled, revealing an underlying current of pain. Infused with courage, the girl stepped toward the man, eyes wide but steady. "Do you care about him at all?" she asked, her voice unwavering. "You have to choose the right side." The man's gaze flickered to her, surprise darting across the landscape of his hardened features. It was a mere moment, but within it lay the possibility of something profound. Before the man could reply, the bell on the door rang once more, a foreboding chime that sent icy tendrils of fear lacing through my veins. The diner door flew open, revealing a shadowy figure silhouetted against the bright outside light. I squinted into the blinding brightness, heart racing, breath catching in my throat. My heart sank as the figure emerged, revealing a face that had haunted my dreams, someone familiar yet unwelcoming. "Did you really think you could escape?" The voice dripped with malice. "The game's only just begun." That a collective gasp rippled through the diner, disbelief painting the faces of onlookers. I felt the blood rush from my head, reality collapsing in on itself as the weight of a newfound dread settled like a shroud around my shoulders. In that moment, the fragile alliances formed moments earlier began to dissolve into a terrifying uncertainty. The man, Jake, and even the girl looked confused and fraught, trapped in the crosshairs of this escalating tension. "That we don't have time for this," I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat as I turned to the girl. "We need to run. Now." With adrenaline surging, I gripped her hand, heart pounding as we faced the unwanted storm that had come roaring through our fragile world. Time clung to us, suffocating, as the new figure stepped forward, and I could almost see the shadows gathering around him, ready to plunge us back into the abyss we had fought so hard to escape. But just as I thought we might retreat into darkness, I felt the girl's hand squeeze mine tighter, a flicker of hope igniting between us once more, a vow of strength in the face of despair. Yet ahead lay an unknown labyrinth of choice, danger, and complexity, and as the revelation of our enemy unfolded, a shiver ran through me, telling me this was only the beginning of something infinitely more horrific. The diner was thick with tension, the air an electrified blanket that felt heavy on my chest. The figure at the door loomed larger as he stepped inside, his presence igniting a desperate energy that set everyone's nerves on edge. I could feel the girl's pulse quicken in my palm, each thud a reminder of the urgency we faced, but also the fragile connection we had formed. "Get out, now!" I shouted, pulling her back toward the kitchen entrance, the forgotten sense of grease and coffee mingling in a disarray of chaos. But every instinct screamed at me as Jake's voice cut through the panic like a dagger. "Wait, don't leave me," he pleaded. The desperation in his tone clutched at my heart. Twisted emotions tangled within me. I knew Jake's plea was as much about wanting solidarity as it was about fear. Yet the knowledge of betrayal lingered in the air, a specter haunting our every move. Could we trust him? Despite my gut twisting against the swelling tide of uncertainty, I turned back, looking into his dark eyes, searching for the truth buried beneath layers of hurt and guilt. Moments morphed into an eternity as our worlds crashed into each other. The man at the door stepped toward us, his face revealing an unsettling mixture of disdain and amusement. "Jake," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "you think you can play the hero now? After everything?" "Shut up!" Jake shouted, the barely contained fury in him now spilling over. The waitress, frozen behind the counter, witnessed the breakdown but didn't dare intervene. I found my voice again, fragile yet determined despite the chaos. "Jake, listen to me. We can't fight this here. We need to get out. I urged, clutching the girl's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of her resolve seep into me, a small anchor in the torrid sea of confusion, but the man shook his head slowly, a dark smile twisting his lips. You think he'll protect you? You don't even know who you're standing with. No, I breathed, the realization hitting me like a gust of frigid air. You know something, don't you? About us. About him, the moment stretched as I wrestled with the dread creeping up my spine, but just as he opened his mouth to respond, the girl tugged my arm, pulling me through the doorway leading to the kitchen. I shot one last glance at Jake, a silent promise threading our fates together, but fear briefly stole my hope that we burst into the kitchen, the clatter of pots and pans a sharp contrast to the dramatic showdown outside. My heart raced, not just from the adrenaline of flight, but from the looming question of what would happen next. What do we do now? The girl gasped, anguish clouding her eyes. What if they come after us? What if they hurt him? Her words hung between us like a fragile thread, entwined with doubt, and for a moment, I felt the weight of the decision we had ahead of us. We could leave without him, but would we carry the burden of his fate on our shoulders forever? They will come after us. But if we stay, they'll take us all. My voice trembled, torn between the instinct to flee and the desire to stay and fight. It was maddeningly complex, this tapestry of connections weaving through our lives, darkened with betrayal yet illuminated by newfound bonds. The girl stepped closer, her eyes alight with a fierce determination. We have to help him. He saved us once, he might still redeem himself. Her faith in Jake struck a chord deep within me, igniting something that had been flickering in the depths of my heart. But as I stared at her, my mind raced through the memories we were burdened with, the shadows of betrayal and despair that haunted us all. What if we can't trust him? I whispered, barely believing my own doubts. Before she could answer, a crash echoed from the diner, sharp and jarring, followed by muffled voices rising in anger. The moment of hope that had ignited between us dimmed, leaving behind the weight of an unbearable reality. Come on, I urged her, looking at the kitchen's exit. The door leading to the back alley whispered its own promise of escape. We needed to have a plan, a path carved out of the chaos. Threatening to consume us, yet it felt impossibly distant that we stepped toward the back door just as another crash rumbled from the diner. My heart plummeted, that could only mean one thing. They're coming. We can't waste time. Just as we reached for the handle, I froze as a chilling voice echoed from beyond the door, palpable and cold. You're not going anywhere, they'll make sure of that. The girl looked up at me, terror lining her features as I closed my eyes, bracing myself against the reality crashing down around us. The man with deceitful warmth, the swirling lies, and the bonds that tethered us to the very shadow of our past were coming to a head. With a pounding heart, I turned to face our fate, a whisper of defiance coiling within me. This was not the end, it was merely the beginning. Behind that door, the storm was raging, and we were caught in the eye of it. A resolve bubbled within me as the realization pierced through like a broken ray of light in heavy darkness. We had to face it together, or be consumed individually by the horrors closing in. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a jarring reminder of the real world I had tried to escape. With trembling hands, I pulled it out, the screen illuminating a name I never thought I would see again, one that would change everything. With bated breath, I tapped to open the message. I know where you are, and I know about Jake. If you want to save him, come to location. Now my stomach twisted. The message hung in the air like a lead weight, each word pulsating with gravity. My instincts screamed for a moment's clarity amidst the whirlwind of uncertainty that enveloped us. I turned to the girl, whose face mirrored my own turmoil, her brows furrowed in concern. What if it's a trap? What if they want to lure us in? I don't know, she whispered, but I could see her mind racing, perhaps caught between hope and the fear of what might happen next. The truth of it was raw and jagged. Betrayal had a sharp edge, one that had already cut through the fabric of our lives. Just then, another violent crash echoed from the diner, followed by a voice that sent chills down my spine. You think you can run? I have everything under control, the man called, his tone a perverse blend of mocking and threatening. Jake was still in there, somewhere, and we couldn't leave him behind. Maybe it's not just about escaping, I said, my own voice trembling with an uncertainty that threatened to engulf me. We have to save him, right? We can't leave him to deal with whatever this is alone. The girl took a deep breath, the determination in her eyes rekindled. If there's even a chance that he can help us, or we can help him, we owe it to him. To ourselves, the thought crashed over me, a wave of responsibility juxtaposed against our urgent need for escape. My heart raced, and I made my decision. We go, I said firmly, stepping back toward the kitchen door, resolving to face whatever was on the other side. Wait, she pulled my arm back gently. What about that message? It could be from someone who knows or someone who wants to hurt us even more, I interjected, guiding her toward the diner's exit instead. We can't trust anyone but ourselves right now. We have to confront this. That we took a deep breath, the air heavy with unspoken fears, as we stepped through the back door and into the alley. It was cooler out there, but there was no comfort in the breeze that tousled our hair. Every sound seemed amplified, the city outside alive with frenetic energy that felt maddeningly distant from our unfolding nightmare. The thundering heart of the diner echoed in the background, a reminder of the waiting storm, and my pulse quickened. I knew we had to re-enter or head elsewhere to find Jake. But where would we go? Just a few feet down the alley, there was a flickering light at the end, a dim promise of safety. I turned to the girl, searching for reassurance in her eyes. Let's go around, maybe there's an alternate entrance. We have to find him before he gets hurt. That we hurried along the narrow alley, our sneakers slapping against the wet pavement, each footfall echoing the resolve summoning us. As we reached a more spacious side street, a commotion caught my ear, and the flickering light flashed from an open garage ahead. It seemed like an opportunity, a chance to find Jake or even hide if it came to that, but as I moved cautiously forward, a figure suddenly emerged from the shadows. Jake himself, disheveled and visibly shaken. Relief washed over me but was quickly swept aside by the tension simmering in the air. His eyes darted to me and then to the girl, as if assessing whether we had come to rescue him or were part of the impending chaos. What are you doing here? He demanded, his voice thick with urgency but laced with confusion, as if he were challenging the fate we had all subjected ourselves to. We came to find you. We don't want to leave you, I insisted, adrenaline coiling tighter around my heart. The man, he's looking for you, I added, the weight of my knowledge pressing down on me. His expression shifted, fear tightening his features. You shouldn't have come. It's not safe. You think I didn't weigh the risk? A fierce defiance rose within me, fueled by the emotional turmoil and the sheer urgency of the moment. We're in this together, Jake. You owe us that much, at least. That he looked at me, the guilt etched on his face mingling with a flicker of hope. Just as his lips parted to respond, we were interrupted by a voice haloed in fury. Jake! There you are. I've been looking for you. The man from the diner burst into the alley, the cold confidence radiating from him. And look who brought you to me. How convenient. Reality crashed down around me, the ground shifting beneath my feet. Jake's eyes widened as I instinctively stepped back, drawn closer to the girl, our bodies a united barrier against uncertainty. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Jake's face, but the man laughed, dark and deep, as if the world was morbidly amusing to him. You think you can save him? After everything? Stop right there. I shouted, my heart pounding as adrenaline fueled my words. Don't you dare hurt him. The man's demeanor shifted, a predatory smile curling up at the corners of his lips. Oh, I thought I'd wait for the perfect moment. But maybe we can play around a little first. Panic surged within me, my thoughts racing as everything hung in the balance, strung on the tight wire of an unresolved conflict. This was not the end, it was only the beginning of a darker chapter unfolding before us, entangled in uncertainty with every breath we took. A revelation loomed just outside of our grasp, and as I stood my ground, a faint glimmer of hope flickered in the tension, one that I knew might shatter or illuminate the path ahead. As the man's words hung in the air, a chill swept through the alley, biting deeper than the cool breeze that had once felt refreshing. I tightened my grip on the girl's arm, pulling her closer as Jake's expression twisted from confusion to desperation. "Get away from him," I demanded, my voice stronger than I felt. But inside, a tempest raged, fueled by anxieties and fears that threatened to drown me. My mind raced through countless scenarios, none ended well. I flicked a glance towards Jake, who stood frozen, caught in the crosshairs of tension and conflict. "You don't understand, do you? You're not just toys in this game," the man sneered, waving his hands dismissively. "You think you came to save him, but it's too late for that. You're already too far gone." "What do you mean?" I spat, every ounce of me ready to throw caution to the wind, ready to confront the source of our horrors. How had things spiraled so wildly out of control? Jake, however, finally found his voice, fragile yet determined. "You don't know what you're getting into. This is bigger than you think. It's about choices, consequences." His eyes darted between us and the approaching menace. "You should leave while you can." "Not without you," I said, urgency unfurling in my chest. The realization hit me, in the battle between fear and courage, I had picked my side. "Such loyalty," the man laughed, a sound void of warmth. "Let me make this clear, he is not who you think he is. There are dark secrets breathing beneath his skin." The girl's grip on my arm slackened, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "Jake, what is he talking about?" I need to explain, but there's no time." Jake's voice cracked, the pain in his eyes a mirror of the chaos churning inside of me. "If he knows him here, it means enough." The man's voice thundered against the brick walls of the alley, reverberating deep within our bones. "You chose this path the moment you turned against me. Now there's no exit." A bead of sweat trickled down my spine, fear creeping back in as the shadow of impending danger loomed overhead. Desperation clawed at my throat, and just as I thought the wall was closing in, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a figure darting through the shadows. The girl noticed it too. "Who?" Before she could finish, the figure stumbled into view, a disheveled woman radiating anxiety and energy. Her eyes were wild, glancing from me to the man, her breath ragged as she spoke. "They're coming. We don't have much time." "Who are you?" the man barked. She focused on Jake. "You need to leave now. Hell, find out what you've done, and it's not just you hell come after." "Done?" I asked, panic flooding my veins. "What has he done?" "Not now," Jake shouted, his voice raw with anguish. "Just go. Trust me." But I couldn't. Every instinct screamed for me to hold my ground, surrounded by swirling uncertainties that threatened to bury us all. The woman pressed forward, determination shining in her eyes. "I can help. But we have to move fast." In that moment, it seemed as if hope and despair collided, a storm of uncertainty dancing between us. The darkness surrounding us felt palpable, but there was something about this stranger, a flicker of courage that drew me in. "Why should we trust you?" I demanded, slipping back into skepticism. But that thought was quickly drowned out by the heavy silence growing around us. "Because I've seen what happens if you don't," she answered, her sadness palpable, as if carrying scars that were not her own. "You all don't have to pay for the choices he made." The man stepped forward, fury boiling beneath his skin, and I felt Jake surging to my side, ready for anything. "What do you know?" "You don't know anything," he snarled. It was then that the girl whispered into my ear, a slight tremor in her voice, "We have to believe her." I met her eyes, and in that fleeting moment of connection, clarity struck me like lightning. There was strength in unity, and maybe, just maybe, this was our only chance. "Let's go," I shouted, feeling an adrenaline-fueled resolve surge through my limbs. But as we started to move, navigating through the patchy light and deeper darkness, the man lunged forward just as he bellowed, "You'll regret this." Jake turned briefly to face him, his expression a storm of emotions, regret mixed with a ferocity I had never seen. "You don't know what you're unleashing." I didn't understand what he meant, but the tightness in my chest told me there was more to uncover, another layer to our intertwined destinies. Just as we reached the mouth of the alley, the world shifted again, my heart plummeted as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed. I froze, unable to discern whether they were allies or foes. "Run," the woman urged, yanking my arm. But I found myself tugged back by an invisible cord of relentless curiosity. "Jake!" I cried out, stretched between the unfamiliar woman and the familiar face I was willing to risk everything for. The gravity of the moment pulled me sideways, and I had no choice but to choose. The realization crashed down around me. Either way, a choice would resound through the corridors of our lives eternally. I would either lose him or push forward into an unknown future, one twisted with choices, darkness, and chance, and in that moment of agonizing inevitability, I knew the truths we had yet to unearth would either shatter us or set us free. I held the weight of that revelation close as we plunged deeper into the darkened embrace of the alley. With every heartbeat resonating with promise and dread, we ran toward an uncertain future, unaware of the new obstacles that loomed just beyond the horizon, waiting for us to make our next fateful choice. I never thought a single night could transform so drastically. In the soft glow of dawn, the first light breaking through the remnants of night felt like a fragile promise, one I clung to with desperate fingers as the events of the previous hours flooded my mind like a barrage of memories, sharp and haunting. We had run through the shadows, narrowly escaping the grip of uncertainty while wrestling with our own choices that bound us together, a tapestry woven from desperation, bravery, and shattered secrets. I could hardly process the chaotic symphony of voices, emotions, and hidden truths that had spiraled around us. With the girl, Jake, and the unnamed woman so intent on saving him from the fallout of choices not his own, I felt the exquisite weight of decisions that would forever alter the course of our lives, that I led us through labyrinthine streets, desperation fueling our escape. But it felt increasingly suffocating as each footstep echoed my doubts. Why had I thrown myself into this? What did any of us really stand to gain? Would I lose everything, or would I discover a path forward? The gnawing fear lurking just beneath skin whispered constantly, taunting my resolve, yet the resolve was there, fierce and bright, fueled by the inexplicable bond forming among us, that we finally stopped, breathless and trembling amid the sparse daylight filtering through the trees of an abandoned park. The tension had left us feeling raw, the air carried the scent of mixed pine and desperation, a tangible reminder of our precarious state. The woman, whose name I barely knew and whose past I couldn't fathom, sat heavily on a bench, her trembling hands clasped together. Jake stood close, his expression a tumult of anguish and confusion, yet there was fire burning beneath that bewilderment, a flicker of hope waiting to ignite. "That we need to talk," I said, my voice hoarse but resolute. "Everything that's happened." What the man said. I drew in a breath, bracing myself against the surge of emotions that threatened to overcome me. "What did you do, Jake?" He flinched, pain swirling in his eyes like a tempest. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he whispered, the gravity of his voice punctuating the silence. "I was just trying to protect us." "Protect us?" the girl echoed incredulously, stepping forward. The worry etching across her features echoed my own doubts. "From the truth," he burst, his voice laced with urgency. "I was part of something bigger, something I thought I could get away from, but it always follows." He was a part of it too. He pointed to the still looming shadow they had escaped, "and now he wants to pull everyone into this nightmare." A wave of gravity pressed down on us, doubts skimming dangerously close to the surface, but in that storm of chaos, something flickered, a light among shadows. "You can't face it alone, Jake," I urged. "We're in this together. We can figure this out. Together?" he muttered, hope laced within exhaustion. "But what if together means even more pain for you?" "We've already chosen this path," I pressed. "Nothing will change that. So, we either figure it out now or just let fear control us." Fear rippled through the space between us, but beneath it all, defiance welled again. I tried to walk away, thought I could save myself. "But it's not just about me," Jake murmured, staring at the grass below as if it held all the answers. And then he looked up, determination flooding back. "But if they find out where we are, anything could happen. I can't bring you into this world, not without knowing you're safe." It was the moment of choice, when shadows and light intertwined, the crux of possibility. I stepped closer, bottled courage surfacing. But this isn't just your burden anymore. You've got us. We're more than just survivors, we're each other's lifeline. His gaze softened, the weight slowly lifting. You really mean that? His voice trembled as he looked toward the girl and then me. I do, I responded, the clarity in my heartbeat echoing through the lines woven between us. Let's face whatever comes together. We can turn this fear into a shield, not a prison. Jake looked up, light breaking across his face as his shoulders loosened. Okay, he nodded. Together, and then the woman lucidly spoke, eyes filled with warmth. You have fierce hearts igniting your souls. Use that fire to forge your own path. Just remember, the past may follow, but you can shape the future. Those words fell like rain upon parched earth, they were anchoring yet liberating. We didn't have to carry the burden of our past, we could rise, choose courage and craft our own fate moving forward. We huddled together, an impromptu family forged in the fires of chaos, resolve burning brightly within us as the sun crested the horizon. Bound by our allegiance, we forged ahead into the uncertain future. In that moment, courage unraveled the chains of fear, we could face whatever awaited us, hand in hand stronger together. As I walked alongside them, resolute, the world felt larger brighter, too, and I knew we would emerge from this, together, and together, we would ignite our own light against darkness, no matter how fierce the storm.